Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Through the Mirror. We're changing everything up. We're relaunching the whole podcast. There's some things that we are walking into in 2026, and we thought that this was due. One really big change people notice is Ravi's not here this evening. With the relaunch of the podcast, me and Andrea are going to be the regulars on the show, and Ravi's still going to be around on certain topics that we have. So he'll always be a friend, and we just want to say thanks to Ravi for being on and everything he did for 2025. I know we had a lot of Ravi fans out there. Always be the Sri Lankan that everybody loved hearing on the show. So we'll be sure to have him on a semi-regular basis. But in the atmosphere of the country, everybody always has a political opinion, and the Patriots table is obviously we lean more as a political opinion-based podcast, and in the direction that everything was going, it just seems like that's not the way to really get through to people is talking about politics. And what is really, we've talked about it on the show multiple times, what's really needed in society is people to get through to people's hearts and help people find themselves. So Through the Mirror is exactly that, looking self-reflection and actually going through that. And we want to, have honest conversations about personal growth, awareness, relationships, and, us being a couple and having children, talking about, parenting and all this stuff, and be able to actually bring some more value than just a political opinion, which there's no shortage of right now. So really excited to start this journey with everybody. And, I have my partner in crime in my everyday life, and now I have my partner in crime on the show as well. So Andrea, did you say anything you wanted to say?
I mean, sounds like a good plan. We're just here for the ride.
So with some of the stuff that we're walking into, I mean, it's the Through the Mirror, we really want to focus on three main things to bring to virtually every episode. And it's going to be personal growth, awareness, um, talking about relationships. And, each three of those things are really gets there's deep aspects to all of them for me. Like, the personal growth, it kind of goes with the name that we chose for the show, Through the Mirror. Each one of those really starts with the mirror and being honest with yourself and what you see in yourself. That's really the only way you can truly have personal growth, is being honest with yourself. And being honest with yourself brings that awareness, and through growth, through that awareness, you start to, you know, your relationships change. As you change, your relationships change, and relationships naturally change as you do. And I'm really looking forward to being able to, talk about our own stuff together. And we're going to have guests on to talk about this kind of stuff as well, and a lot of different aspects of it. We've had some guests on the show to talk about this stuff, but I really want to center in and focus on that. Um, Andrea, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be discussed because, you always hear about growth in a lot of circles, and a lot of it, at least the mainstream, can be really surface level. Like growth is buying the car and the house and being super fit at the gym. And like some of those things are milestones for growth sometimes. Sometimes they can be just superficial I guess, standards we set as growth in society. Growth has a very individual approach, just like natural health. Like I'm a naturopath and you focus on the whole person. It's kind of the same thing when you start changing your diet and doing the right things, drinking water, well, your body changes, your health changes. But not all of that is, I guess, the same exact blueprint for everyone. Someone, it might be going to the gym. Maybe they need to, balance their dopamine, get out of a funk they're in, sitting around. Maybe they're over playing video games, doom scrolling. So going to the gym isn't really about looking super fit, but getting them into a different pattern. And then there's growth in that. And then maybe they get fit. Maybe they meet new people. Maybe they decide that sitting around and doing nothing is no longer serving them, and then something new is created because they grew past that, where their life got better. So I think growth isn't just this word you throw around. Oh yeah, sure, growth. Like I think sometimes, when you're a kid and you're immature, you think, oh yeah, I grew up. I'm 18, right? Like I've made it. Like I remember thinking that, like I was probably 16, 17 years old in my naive self, and I was like, I'm almost there. I'm almost 18. I made it. And man, I want to go back to the little girl and be like, you have no clue, honey. Just stop.
Mine was 21. It was the drinking age. It's like, oh, I'm a man. I can go buy a beer now. Like that was a thing. I could go buy a beer. But yeah, that's that just big lie that you hit 18, you can legally or the legally vote. That was the big one. It's like, oh, I can go vote for who's going to go run the country. I could go to the military,
I
and
don't
stuff
know
like that.
about saying it's a lie. I think it's just, that's where you're at in growth. So like growth is never going to end. Like this idea that someday you're just going to finally get it all and you're there is actually a childish thought. And then as a child, it's hilarious, right? I think it's funny. I look back and I laughed at that. I remembered that today and I was like, oh yeah, that's funny. But growth is something that is never going to end. And I don't mean that in the way, well, oh yeah, I always just got to try better. And like, there's people that use the term growth to not grow and to kind of either manipulate themselves or others into believing that there's an excuse for not transforming and not moving on and not changing. So there's just all these different aspects to it. But I think people today, and from my conversations, what I see, they're not looking for this one and done blueprint. They're looking for what in my individual self can I do to grow, transform, and learn new things. Maybe start something new in my life. Maybe my family always did it this way, and I just don't want to do things that way. But how do I get out of this pattern? Or I want to better myself. Maybe you want to be more fit, but maybe going to the gym is the last part of that. Maybe you have to change things within yourself first before you can even be consistent in the gym. Like I can say I've sat with people where they're like, "Man, I really want to be fit, but I don't feel good when I go to the gym and I feel like I'm going to pass out or I throw up or I keep getting hurt." And it's like, "Oh, your diet needs to improve. You need to drink better water. You know what? You have a lot of nervous system stress and imbalances. You have, a lot of emotional stress going on. Working out and getting fit might need to wait because there's areas here that you need to start at. You can't just bypass from, well, I'm going to go be super fit now, but I didn't address why maybe I can't even accomplish that with where I'm at right now." So I guess it depends on what your idea of growth is. And is it really growth or is it a coping mechanism? Is it a mask for not wanting to grow or not knowing how to grow? I think these are all like a big conversation happening in society right now that needs to be more available and not just, you know, the whole, oh, I went to my therapist and they told me what was wrong with me. Great. What's the solution after you get told what's wrong with you? So like even in that, like there's awareness, but then what do you do after you have awareness? What's the tools? And I think that's like a topic we want to talk about, right, Trey? Like what are some of the tools, or even from our own personal experiences, from other people that have shared their experiences, what are the tools and how many are in the toolbox? What's in here for me?
No, absolutely. And I mean, I like your analogy with the working out and the diet thing. And if you're getting hurt and stuff, I mean, there's another side of that too. Like if you're dealing with serious depression and you are having a hard time getting out of bed, you're like kidding yourself if you're going to have discipline and the ability to go to the gym consistently like that too. If you're so there's obviously a very specific tailor to each individual person and an individual journey
Mhm.
and what that looks like for them. And I feel like there's this like trick when if you start scrolling online, and I get alarmed when I see this stuff. I'll see advertisements even on like Facebook where it's like, oh, go take this quick test on this app to find out what's wrong with you and all these problems like the are
Oh,
you a narcissist, take this test to find out if you're a narcissist and stuff like that. I'm like, is this really, like, it's sad. I like if they're out there advertising this stuff, that means there's enough people that are actually using this stuff, which means there's a lot of people really desperate to find a solution to whatever problem or whatever mess they find themselves in. And a lot of this stuff seems either tailored to a very specific individual type, like a mainstream, like it's been very mainstream, or almost in a
a
how
one
can I
size fits
profit?
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like if you, I mean, and you see that with certain things like, the Tate brothers. They have their one solution to everything for a man is to go to the gym, get fit, and then, go start a business, go put yourself out there and make money, get women, and boom, you're good for a man. That's all you need to do. And
I
that's the
mean,
way to
and
get that.
if that's done the right way, like out of a healed place, not a I actually have mommy issues and I don't want to deal with them, so I need to keep proving why I don't have mommy issues while having mommy issues. I mean, I'm sorry, that's the Tate brothers. I know a lot of people like them, but they have like a lot of insecurity. Like, and I feel like that's crazy is people are always like, oh, the Tate brothers and they're talking, I'm like, they're super insecure men. Like they talk about women like they're talking about someone that hurt them, not someone they value. And that goes, women can do that too. Like I've seen it on both sides. So yeah, growth isn't always having a six pack, a fancy car, and having tons of money because you can have all of those things and still be hollow inside because that wasn't actually growth. That was just more coping mechanisms. That was just trying to seek approval, prove why you're not what you are. So there's all kinds of layers there. I think a lot of times there's another aspect of this too is where people are really obsessed with growth, but they never actually integrate and take on what they're learning and actually keep it and apply it in the real way. So, like, for example, if you have someone that's been through a really hard time in life, they're going to sit there and read and finally, oh, I want to grow. Okay. They're going to read all the books, watch all the podcasts, do all these things, and want to bypass the steps necessary to actually grow. You can't go, okay, I'm great now, I'm good. I read all these books and now I know it all and I'm great. Wait a minute, I don't think I ever cried about that. And then you're back at square one because you never met yourself where you were at. It's kind of like, I grew up growing gardens with my family and doing fruits and vegetables and stuff. It's something I love. I love to be out in nature and you have to make sure the soil's healthy and then you have to put the seed in. Then you have to hope there's sunshine and water, and maybe you have to water it. And you have to come back for days and months to watch that plant grow. And that's how we are. And it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what you've been through, what your past is. You have an opportunity to plant a seed and grow. But it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen with here is a blueprint to why you're going to have a perfect life if you follow what I did. If you live like me, if you believe like me, then you'll have a perfect life. That is not true. And I would argue that life will never be perfect and life is messy and life is hard and you grow. So not that you can escape hard, but so you can be in the hard and still be who you are.
Right. Well, and that comes from just being okay with doing the uncomfortable part of it all. And it reminds me of like the person that's like, okay, I'm going to start running, and they go to the store and they buy the $120 running shoes, they buy the fit this and the fit that and the band to hold
It
this.
might feel good. Might be a good thing.
And that's not a bad thing, but if you do that to hype yourself up and get you all these things, but then you go run once, twice, maybe three times, and then oh, this is hard. Like going and getting, if you're just acquiring tools the whole time and not applying these tools, you're not actually getting anything out of it. So like in order to run and consistently run and get good at running, you have to do the uncomfortable part of the sucky part of running, which is my legs hurt, I'm out of breath, I'm sweating, I'm uncomfortable. This sucks, you know, and no amount of fancy running shoes is going to get rid of the uncomfortable aspect of it. It's the same thing with personal growth. There is, I would argue, majority of it is uncomfortable. It's not fun. It's messy. You're going to cry. You're going to get angry. You're going to visit things that you don't want to visit. You're going to have to look in the mirror and acknowledge stuff that you don't want to acknowledge. That's going to, I would say the worst thing that could happen to your ego is when you have to bruise your own ego. It's not even necessarily somebody else. It's when you have to go, yeah, and have that whole hang your head moment that, yep, I got this is a problem. I need to work on this. And
Yeah.
you have to accept that I'm going to be okay not being okay for a time while I figure this out, while I work through this. And you know what? It's okay not having it together. And especially talk from a more a man's perspective. We have it in society today where it's not acceptable for a man not to be okay in a lot of ways, or at least even show it. Like you have to hide when you're not okay. And if you're not okay, then well, then there's something wrong with you. That's why I think, you know, alcohol's always been a big problem. I think that's why pornography's as big as it's ever been, is because we've made it in society to where it's not okay for a man to be having a hard time. So just because society says it's not okay for a man to be having a hard time doesn't magically make it to where men aren't having a hard time. Like the reality is every man is going to be not having, not be okay at a time or moment in his life or multiple moments throughout the week. So since that's not accepted and we don't care about that, you just have all these coping mechanisms, all these things, these outlets that men go to try and plug that and try and feel better and try and medicate their way through it instead of meeting themselves, being real with themselves. And a lot of times, just being able to sit there and go, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm not feeling okay is enough to help you feel better and be like, oh, okay, it's just that being honest with yourself, being able to meet yourself where you're really at sometimes is what you needed and will go really far into helping you get through it because it's almost like a pressure cooker type thing. The more you deny it, the more that pressure builds up. That's gonna blow eventually. I don't know if anybody's used a pressure cooker or like, done canning or anything like that. If you let the pressure build and build and build, it's gonna not be good. So
Well, and I think there's a deeper part of that too, and I think men and women do this, but if you can't not be okay, you're either going to suppress yourself and it's going to come out in the physical and in certain behaviors. Like, for example, one common one that is very prominent in men is never taking the time to express your emotions in a healthy way, so then they come out in a big fat burst of anger. And then with women, it's like, oh, I'm going to suppress my emotions. And then they're going to either come out in anger or it's going to come out in, oh, now I'm an anxious mess. So, I mean, there's consequences to doing things that way. And again, I don't think that a lot of people are even aware of it or even know that. It's just, oh, I'm doing what I've been taught to do, or this is all I know. So I think having access to different perspectives and conversations in that way, people can go, oh, you know what, that's actually helpful. I think I might try that and pick from the toolbox because this is all your own choices and journey. It can't be a, well, this worked for me. My name's Andrea, and this is what I did. So you just should do what I did. Nobody has the same anything. And I think that's kind of, since, I grew up in a Christian household, you know, the whole idea of having a personal relationship when it came to Jesus's example. Like nobody could do that for you. And the church and stuff promotes this idea that you can go to church and someone's going to tell you and do that for you. And I see that a lot. I see that it's in every religion. But I think that was the point, was it was supposed to be a personal relationship because it's personal growth. Your spirituality, your body and your mind and emotions, those all are together as one. All of them work the same. They're not like these separate compartments that you just, well, I'm just gonna, it's kind of like focusing on working out on your leg, this leg only, and you're gonna do 50-pound weights and never touch this one. What do you think that leg is going to look like compared to the other? And like you'd be walking around and people be like, are you gonna work out the other one? And I think about that often because then you have the people like, oh yeah, I work out at the gym 7 days a week and I'm really buff, but I eat McDonald's and drink 17 sodas a month. And you're kind of like, okay, so you're working out, but you're kind of like destroying everything else in your health and even mentally and emotionally because I mean your gut affects the brain. So that doesn't make sense to me. When I think about that, it's like, oh, that's a lack of growth in that area.
Right. And well, and there comes a part, and this, I think, a good part to bring some of the awareness stuff into it, because how much of those, you know, patterns are subconscious programming from childhood, from just you seeing your parents, right? Because I mean, whether in any coping mechanism, a lot of that is subconscious programming from parents, and it can be something as simple as, well, when things get difficult, I binge watch a TV show. Nobody's actively really thinking like that's a big problem to sit in the evening and watch 6 hours of a show. And I would even say on the scale of really bad habits, that's probably ranks more lower.
Or
But if that is your subconscious, programming, that, oh, well, that's the outlet, that's my escape, that's my, then you don't even know until you bring the awareness, oh, that's not really serving me like that. That's how I deal with it. It's not just even a burst of anger. Maybe it's just completely shutting down. Oh, I don't get angry. I just retreat inwards and don't say anything at all. And that's, yeah, it's really interesting where it could be the subconscious way of it. And like, what do you think is the best way to kind of bring awareness to some of that stuff? Because that's the tricky thing about subconscious. You're just not aware of it. You're not aware of how to, and people have a hard time getting the subconscious conscious again and bringing that awareness to it. What's one of the what's a tool that you think of that could help with that?
I mean, I think that there's changes you just start making and that brings up things like, for example, something as simple as this, I'll speak to me personally. Years ago, I used to drink like 10 cups of coffee a day to get through my extremely long work week and not eat. And I was back in my 18 through 20s. So, yeah, I know that sounds ridiculous that coffee is my bad thing, but this led to a lot of health issues and stress. But after I started looking into health, because my health got so bad and my adrenals were shot from all the caffeine and the stress and not eating right and etc., I looked into, doing a cleanse and I had to give up caffeine. And I was like, okay, yeah, to help my adrenals and everything, this isn't working. I tell you what, you give up that caffeine and you realize how much it was a coping mechanism. And then you go, so why was I drinking caffeine and why is this so hard to give up? Because I know it's not just the caffeine, because it's like, I crave this, I want this. And I was like, oh, this was actually how I got through stress and how I could, when I didn't have energy, I would just have energy now. And I guess that's the very minuscule version of the self-awareness of what you're subconsciously doing, bringing it to consciousness. I thought, in my immature self, I could just keep drinking this coffee and nothing was going to happen to me, not stop working and not stop going. But eventually that all came crashing down. And then you have a lot of awareness that you never had before because it's going to come smack you in the face. Another way is just paying attention to yourself, like not hyper self-awareness to where you're wringing your hands and going, "Oh my gosh, well, I've got all these things wrong with me." But hey, or having a friend in your life, "Hey, you say sorry like all the time and you did nothing wrong," and you go, "Yeah, you're right, I do that. That's weird. Why do I do that?" And then you're like, "What's that about?" And maybe you go grab a book. Why I say sorry all the time and I didn't do anything? Oh, that can go back to having someone in your life or a friend or a dynamic where you had to keep the peace, so you just said sorry so they would stop freaking out or they wouldn't be mad anymore. So those are the little things, and then you have to dig into that, and you're like, "Oh," then you dig into that, and you're like, "Oh, okay, so I have some work to do. Okay, now I'm gonna dig into that." And that's where that growth comes from. That's how you start bringing up. It's these little tiny things, these little messages, and we all have them. Everybody has them, and you just start deciding to pay attention. Instead of having your attention everywhere else, distractions, like in today's age, and I'm gonna sound like the boomer today since Robbie isn't here to do it. Um, we're distracted by our phones, by social media and everybody's conversations. You got the politics, and you got the drama, and you got the gossip and all these things. So why would you have time to stop and go, huh, why am I thinking about that? That's a weird thought. Oh, what came into my head? And you just start, why can't I sit here? I'm the kind of person that I like to be doing stuff all the time. And at one point it got so bad where I was like, man, I can't sit here right now because I feel like I need to be doing something. Why is that? Why can't I just sit here and chill without doing anything? Why can't I sit here and chill with myself? And you start seeing how there's something going on where you're running from yourself. Maybe being busy keeps you away from what's going on in your life, keeps you getting away from your problems. So there's a lot to that. So you can just start paying attention because in this society, we're taught to be distracted and to be consumers, not actually paying attention to what's going on right in front of you.
It sounds like, normalizing just a self-reflection of even your day and if you're making it a habitual habit to go to self-analyze and not, like you said, not overdo it to where you're just overly critical of
I
every little thing you do. But
I don't really like the word self-analyze. I think analytical thinking is not good in that way. Like it goes too far. Not that being analytical in ways doesn't have its benefits, but I think it's more so just paying attention. Like you don't want to sit there and go, "Oh my gosh, I have a pimple on my knee. I think it's cancer. Now I'm gonna go look up cancer." Like that's the equivalent of being over analytical. Like, what are you doing? Like now you're gonna have a bunch of stress and that did nothing for your life. Okay. So that's not what's being encouraged. It's, hey, I just talked for like 2 minutes. Did I breathe? Oh my gosh, I don't breathe when I'm talking. I think I'm gonna work on that. Oh, do I breathe through my mouth all the time? Oh, I'm gonna practice breathing. I realize I just don't breathe. Like these things. And then why am I not breathing? That's not good for me. Oh, sitting here, you're eating breakfast and you can't sit down and just eat your breakfast because you're jumping up and doing all these things and it's 10 o'clock. Oh, I didn't even eat my breakfast. I didn't even chew my food. I just forked it down. Us moms, we all do it. Let's just all of us be honest. Okay. Don't lie. You're all shaking your head right now. How many of you heat your coffee up 3 times because you're taking care of your kids and then go look and go, oh, I didn't even chew my food. I horked that down in 2 minutes and it was gone. And then you're over here, kids, chew your food. They're all looking at you like, what?
or even worse, it's, oh crap, it's 11 o'clock and my breakfast is still sitting there and I never touched it.
Yeah.
Um, no, yeah, I'd be just so with the yeah, over analytical and is definitely is we like using the analogy of a pendulum. You don't want to be too far this way or too far the other way. But sitting there and not making it normal to reflect on your day will can completely change your life. Oh, what parts of and not in a trying to find things wrong with you, but being brutally honest with yourself and with the intention of loving yourself. I love myself. Where am I? Where do I need to grow?
I would say like expand on that too, another topic to expand on, but not to love yourself that's rooted in entitlement and manipulation and thinking you're owed something. I would say loving yourself is something as simple as here, I'll use an example. Dropping a bowl of rice on the ground, and you're the kind of person that would never, ever call someone stupid or a name for doing that, right? But you say, "Oh, how stupid. You're so stupid. You're so stupid, Andrea. Why would you drop that on the ground?" And you can either repeat that all the time or you can just sit and go, "Whoa, why do I feel like it's okay for me to talk to myself that way?" Hmm. And that's like an example of self-reflection and going, man, loving myself would not be talking to myself that way because your body and your entire being is energy. And you have different terms for this, but what you speak about yourself does impact you. If I sit here and get up every day and go, "Oh, I'm fat. I don't like how I look. Today's going to be a terrible day," and you sit here and do these things, you might start believing it eventually, and you might never see the good. And something that a friend told me not too long ago was instead of talking about what you're not going to do, talk about what you're going to do, what is going right. So instead of talking about, oh, I have 10 pounds to lose, I look terrible. Wow, my skin looks clear. Wow, I look really healthy. I'm so strong. And you start picking out the things that you know are true about yourself and focusing on them and not pouring all of your energy into, oh, everything is bad. I look bad. I can't stand how I look right now. I can't do anything about this. And you just get into the cycle of, geez, where am I at? Or even worse, you never take time for yourself. You never take time to slow down and focus. Maybe you never sit down and eat your food. And then you're having issues because your digestion's not working right and you're not chewing your food. And now you're suffering because you couldn't sit down and eat. And I can say this, if in your life you can't take the time to sit down and eat your meal, something needs to change. Something needs adjusted. Once in a while, a couple times, fine. But if it's this consistent thing every day that you can't even make time to sit down and be able to eat your meal, chew your food, and enjoy it for 20 minutes, you need to reevaluate what's going on in your life. That would be the equivalent of loving yourself. So the whole, oh, I love myself, so I'm gonna just go be ridiculous and project. That's not loving yourself. It's actually being intentional with who you are and what may need to change in you and in your life, or things that you don't recognize are destructive.
Right, and there's definitely the toxic loving yourself where you're like loving yourself does not mean overindulging in the coping mechanisms we're talking about. Like
Yeah.
if one of your coping mechanisms is eating or sugar or sweets and stuff like that, loving yourself isn't, well, you know what? I'm eating this pint of ice cream, and when I open it, I'm throwing away the lid because I love myself and I'm going to eat it and not feel bad about it. That's not that's not
Well, I
really,
mean, yeah,
there's
I mean, once in a while, if you need to do that to love yourself, be like, screw it, I'm eating this big thing of ice cream. I wouldn't necessarily say that it can't be loving yourself, but making it a habitual habit of having no self-awareness, I guess, again. Like if you sit there and you eat a tub of ice cream every day, you're going to end up with maybe diabetes or a heart attack eventually. I would argue that definitely is not loving yourself.
no, and I would in my experience, what the things that are really loving yourself and a lot of times end up being the more uncomfortable
Hmm.
choices. Like, I mean, a very simple example is, let's say, you know, being active, working out. It's not, and being disciplined about it. It's, there's a difference between being motivated and being disciplined. Motivation goes away. Discipline keeps you doing stuff even when there is no motivation. But, working out is difficult. It's not easy. So, a form of self-love can be like, okay, well, I'm going to still go do this, even though, especially on a specific day where I'm really exhausted, I'm tired, it was a long day, but, you know, I, there's a lady who has a really great saying that I love using is what would somebody who loves themselves do? And asking yourself, oh, if I love myself, what would I do? Well, working out's better for me, so I guess I'm gonna go work out, even though I don't feel like working out right now. And and again, we talked about the personalized journey. Maybe that loving yourself, like you said, is being like, well, I never allow myself to have something that I enjoy. So you know what? I'm going to have that pint of ice cream because I never allow myself to have things. And that could be that subconscious thing of a fear of not having, and maybe you didn't have a lot growing up to where you feel almost guilty for having something nice, so you don't do it out of that reason. So you need to love yourself and have something like that. There's never a one size fits all. It's just, going back to what we were saying, it just seems like so many people are pushing a one size fits all. Well, if you love yourself, you can do this. Well, that might not apply to 70% of the people out there. Um, but what you can do is have tools that you can use to apply to your own specific needs, your own journey, or your own going through. And part of that, you know, having awareness and looking inward, what does this say about me? What is my own personal things that I can apply these to and go, ooh, that's something I can work on. That's something I
And
can grow in.
there's another good, I think this one would be more common for people to relate to, but like it was a tree that doesn't like a tree that bear fruit. So like you can plant a seed and grow all these things. But if it doesn't bear fruit, then I guess there is no growth and you didn't really hone in and change because you don't have to say, I'm changed now. Look at this. This is what I did. Change will just appear and you will see it. And not everybody will see it the same. Some change will be seen as a negative thing. Some people will see change as, oh, that's weird, or I don't agree with you. So that's not something I would do. So to me, it doesn't seem like you grew because it's not something you would do. And I think a lot of times we get stuck in these boxes where because it's not how we would do things or how we would live our lives, then that must not be growth. But it's like, well, that might be growth for them. Someone over here, let's say is in their 60s and has experienced a ton of life. Growth to them might be saying, you know what? I don't think I want to retire. I don't know what I want to do with my life. So I think I want to travel the world. And I've never done this. And it's kind of intimidating, but I've really always wanted to do this. I'm going to get past my fear. I'm going to do this thing. And then you have someone in their 20s who's just trying to get brave enough to get that job position that they're kind of terrified of taking. So that's the difference is growth is not, oh, well, it's the same for me and you. It never is. Or it could be a first time mom having her kid home alone for the first time and not, sitting there panicking about every little thing and learning and gaining wisdom and how to handle her baby alone in the situation. And these things are all little examples of growth and awareness. So I think it's about finding what you need in your life and seeking those answers. And you can't grow unless you're seeking, and nobody can do that for you. Like I see this all the time where people are like, well, if my one friend's making all these bad decisions and I got them these books and stuff, but I've tried and explained and it's just not changing. And it's because they have to decide to change for themselves. So you can buy them all the books, you can tell them all the things, but ultimately that's up to them. And growth for the person pushing this might be going, "Oh, yeah, it is up to them, so I shouldn't be sitting here telling them they need to change for me." Because nobody changes for anyone, they change for themselves. So, yeah, it's just lots of different topics and things that I think a lot of people would take value in learning or listening to. And I don't think we would like people's feedback. Like if there's things you'd want to talk about or questions, you should chime in and join the conversation or come on the show and talk if you have a life story. Like I enjoy listening to people's life stories. I enjoy their experiences and hearing new perspectives. Those things all matter. And I think on the level of, talking about how people need to in order for society and the world to change, you have to go through people's hearts and, solid minds. And another thing to do that is to find common ground and connect and be willing to hear out other people's perspectives and life experiences and not just live inside a box and say, this way is the only way and the highway and everybody else is wrong. Because then there is no like alignment or getting on board on a common goal with anyone. You just always have some kind of like, well, that's not for me. Well, you're wrong. Well, this way is right. And nobody has room to grow because you're essentially saying you're only going to be able to grow if you do what I say here. And then things fail.
No, absolutely. And if you're not, if you think your own experience is the only reality out there, the only thing, then there's no seeking. You have to be wanting to seek knowledge, that stuff, because there's so many different experiences that people have had, and so many different, you know, realities, so to speak, because what one person views as their reality and how they see the world is based off their past experience of the world. And if somebody else has a completely different experience in life, then they have a different reality of how they view the world and how the world
Mhm.
operates. And coming at it with seeking knowledge, well, how do you view this situation based off of your lens of life experience? Okay, well, why? Like, what caused you to look at it that way, and almost have a curiosity and with it. And then even with what you said about, wanting to help other people and like give them all the things, give them all the books, send them all the stuff. You know, people need to understand that if somebody, like you said, if somebody's not seeking, they literally won't be able to comprehend what you're trying to share with them. Like
Mhm.
there has to be a willingness to receive. If it's just I'm good, I got it all together, they're not going to see anything because they're incapable of it. Anybody is incapable of it if they're not seeking something out. If somebody doesn't, it's like trying to explain, how to fix a car to somebody who has their fingers in their ears and not listening. They're not gonna learn how to fix the car if they're not
Yeah.
watching intently, looking and wanting to learn how to fix a car, whatever that case may be. And, you know, sometimes it's not just, and that's a hard pill to swallow, because with each person's individual experience, if they go through something and learn something and want to help other people, that's a great desire and a good thing to want to do. But when somebody doesn't want to learn and somebody doesn't want to, and they want to learn, through their own path and their own journey, being able to let them go do that is sometimes even harder than what you went through, because you
Yeah.
care.
I think yes, but I also think it's also another another area here is that you need to respect that they don't want what you have to offer and let them be who they are and accept that and not make it your responsibility because at the end of the day that is their choice and you don't even have to look down on someone. You can just focus on yourself. And I think that's a big issue is everybody, even if it's in a good intentions, wants to control each other. Like that's what you have with the world and the state that it is. Everybody's looking for their power. There's a power struggle, right? You have this in relationships and politics and how the world works and families, and there doesn't need to be a power struggle. You can give advice, give what you have, and if someone rejects it, okay, that's fine. That's their choice. It's their life. You don't have to go around and say, well, they didn't listen to me and well, I hope that like you learn your lesson and stuff because that's unhelpful and that's controlling. And I think that's another thing is people need to just leave each other alone. If it's like if you don't align, you don't agree, then let it go in that area. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some things that you can't just go agree to disagree on. Like personally, I would never agree to disagree on killing innocent people. Like there's no agree to disagree there. It's just no, that's wrong. You need to go work on yourself. You think that's okay, and I won't treat you any worse for that, but I'm probably not going to sit there and want to, go out for coffee because that's just really dark, right? So I'm not saying that, oh, you just need to go, oh, whatever. You do you. Yeah, you do you, but you also have to have boundaries and make decisions for yourself. And personally, I wouldn't want to hang out with someone that felt that killing innocent people was hunky dory.
Right. I guess I'm mostly speaking to, the people that might have, f- figured out a way to get through that, you know, that really tough coping mechanism that they always had, and or discovered something that, just really changed their life. They found a book. Hey, this book just changed my life, changed my view on life,
Mhm.
bettered my life, bettered my marriage or my relationship with my children. And the
Mhm.
first thing people want to do once they have that is share that with people in their inner circle, their really close friends or maybe their partner or, siblings or whoever's in your inner circle. That's the first thing people really want to do is sure, it's just like getting that promotion you've been wanting for
Mhm.
years, and you got that promotion, you're so excited, and you just want to call who's the first person that comes to mind that you'd want to tell about it. That's pretty much who you'd want to tell something that changed your life to, and how it changed your life, why, and try and like this can do it for you as well. And I think people really get disappointed if that's not received well. And like you said, people have their own path, their own journey to walk down, and maybe that's, and even again, tailor to people's individual journeys. That might even not be what they need or what would help them. What helped you might not help them in the way that you think it is. Because again, back to everybody has a different way they perceive the world and what's needed, to get them to their next step in their own journey. So.
Yeah, and I would say that like there's two things here too, where you try to control or save people. If you're enabling, let's just say someone in a really bad place, like they're doing just really bad behavior or bad things, and you're like, for example, if someone addicted to drugs, let's just say you gave them money for food and then you find out they're buying drugs with it. Are you going to keep giving them money so they can eventually die from the drugs and never maybe find another way out and get off these drugs? Or are you going to keep enabling that? And I don't think we talk about that enough. When you try to save people and then you end up enabling people, then you're taking away their one chance to maybe change and choose a different course of action. Same with trying to control people. When you control people to the point where they depend on you, then they can never make choices for themselves and be independent of you. So in both of these cases, whether you're the savior or the controller, you never give that person a chance to grow. And I think people consciously and non-consciously make these decisions every day, and then there's long-term fallout from that.
Right. I mean, a lot of times what it takes for somebody to change is it's sometimes hitting that rock bottom. And if somebody is constantly, like you said, saving them from that, or whether it be consequences or, you know, well, I keep giving, for your example, if I keep giving them money for drugs, then they're never going to run out of money and then not be able to buy food or pay their bills. So they never hit that roadblock of, oh crap, I should probably quit blowing my money on drugs and take care of my everyday needs to live and survive,
Mhm.
right? So that's, I guess that can be where we mistake what love is, because love isn't enabling that, even though it might feel like, oh, my heart's aching for this, I want to help this person, you know, taking away their ability to choose and might actually be having the exact opposite effect that you're intending, and you think you're saving them, but you might be helping keep them in the same habitual cycle by, not letting them choose that, which is another hard pill to swallow with that one.
Mhm. So, I mean, there's just a lot to unpack. And I think with people willing to have these conversations in a normal sense, sometimes you get on some of these videos or books and you're like, I have no clue what they're talking about. This just doesn't make sense. So I guess it's kind of, I'm an avid reader and I like to learn and all these things. So I guess it's a way you can start talking about these things if you haven't read about them or you haven't learned or you haven't been through life experiences maybe in that category or you never thought about it that way. Now you have a place where you can just have a normal conversation. Just like you would talk about your favorite recipe. You didn't won't have to go pull the book out and go, yeah, this has 4 cups of sugar and this and that. You say, oh, well, this has sugar in it and this is what it tasted like. And I think that's what we need more of. We need what it tasted like in a summary in a normal way of speaking instead of I had to go read a 500-page book and get a PhD to figure out what this was about? And I think some people do that. Like, I mean, I actually like learning and experiencing new things for me, it's like, ooh, I'm gonna go take a course on that because I really want to dive into that. And 'cause not everybody has time for that. So,
Well, or just also just normalizing these types of conversations,
mhm.
period. Like people don't, hey guys, you want to talk about patterns around the table, and the whole atmosphere just goes like, no, why do we have to talk about that stuff? Like, like what's like the surface level conversations, that's just been kind of normalized instead of really actually having deep connecting conversations, because that's where you really learn about people
Mhm.
too. Like that's where you really can have connection and be vulnerable with, those closest to you and yourself. Is, I think the whole how's the weather icebreaker has been pretty done to death and doesn't really invite a lot of connection and honest conversation. So, it's kind of what we want to do with this with podcasts, is make it a place where it's normal to have these types of conversations. It's not wrong. Nobody feels small having these conversations or even having the questions about, these types of topics. And yeah, let's make it normal to be brutally honest and open, and being okay with not having all the answers, cuz or fully having it together, cuz I know I don't have all the answers. I don't fully have it all together all the time, but you know,
Yeah. I think my one friend Donna says this, I've seen her say this, where the more I learn, the more I gain in wisdom, the more I realize I don't know hardly anything.
yeah. I isn't that just the more you figure out, the more you realize I haven't figured out a thing.
Mm.
Like, so no, Donna's really wise with that one. But yeah, so I'm excited where we can go with this. Like I said, we want to have, guests on, and even have some of the listeners potentially come on the show as well and ask questions, or, like you said, share their life experience, because I want to make it a a place where people can do that, and there's no judgment, there's no shaming and stuff like that. Because I do believe you can't shame somebody into growth or bettering themselves or anything like that. That just keeps people broken. And especially here in Western culture, it seems like the normal way to try and get somebody to do something is like shaming and guilt tripping, and you need to do better, and you know better than this, and you need to figure it out, and you're going to amount to nothing. It's like the hell you think beating somebody down is going to make them stand tall, and it's never worked that way. And yeah, I'm excited for what's to come on this. And I know we're gonna have Ravi on for some of these topics and stuff. We've done some episodes on some of this stuff over, the past year and a half, and those have been some of our more sought after episodes. So excited to do this, excited to have Andrea on the journey, and hope everybody enjoys and sticks along for the ride. Please be sure to, follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel as we go through this. And seriously, any questions, please put in the comments or message us, and or even topic ideas, stuff that you would want to hear about. And we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, everybody stay warm in this lovely Ohio weather.
Yeah, and that's it's isn't it kind of like a US freeze thing? Everybody's getting the severe cold temperatures.
I saw like 20 degrees in Florida. I just can't imagine that down there.
Wow. I know with wind chill over here, we were getting down to like -20. So if there's listeners and that's anywhere colder than -20, that's the coldest I've seen on there was -20. If anybody's colder, let us know. I'd like to know where that's at in the States. So, but we appreciate everybody tuning in. We're looking forward to bringing you guys more stuff on this, and we will catch you guys on the next one.